Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Gagnon Atelier. I'm your old pal, Tim Gagnon, and this is the Modern Masters Podcast. Well, welcome to the show, everybody. I'm so excited that you are here. We have got so many things going on here at the Gagnon Atelier. It is not even funny. If you want to learn more about what's going on here, you can just check out our website, gagnonatelier.com. And of course, as always, do us a favor, hit the like button, hit the share button if you're watching us on YouTube, which I hope you are on our YouTube channel. If you can hit the subscribe button and hit the fancy schmancy notification bell, that would be a big help for us. We appreciate it. We have got over 40 Modern Masters podcasts where we interview today's best top working artists. And so you will learn a lot and you will be very inspired by watching all of those episodes. So check us out on YouTube as well as on Facebook. And we really appreciate you doing that. So with that said, I am really excited about today's episode. We have a wonderful, amazing artist. I first saw her at the Portrait Society of America at the annual conference that they have every year called the Art of the Portrait. And she is a sculptor. And I mean, there's sculpting and then there's what she does, which is like, oh my gosh, it's awesome. And I got to see her in action and watching her do her sculpting. And then I got to be in a workshop where she was just talking about different ways of like social media and teaching via Zoom meetings and things like that. And she was just amazing. And I knew that you guys had to meet her and that you would be really inspired by her. So with that said, we are going to bring her on today. Meet my new friend, Mardie Rees. Here she is. Welcome to the show.
Thanks, Tim. Awesome.
Yeah,
I love your energy.
yeah, thank you very much. I like to make you feel like a toast, all buttered up. You know what I mean? It's good to be that way. So I am. I'm very excited. When I saw you, when you first get to the conference at the Portrait Society, you have that big what do they call it? The artist paint off, draw off, sculpt
Yeah,
off.
they call it the face off.
The face off. That's
Yeah.
what it's called.
Fun,
the face
huh?
off. And so you get there, and it's just like there's like artists. Everybody's walking around in the ballroom, and there's stations set up when you see people sitting in chairs, and then you might have 2 or 3 or 4 artists painting them. And these are the top artists in the country. And they're right there in front of you, like right there. They're not like way over there. They're right here. And you can sit and watch them. You can talk to them. And then they're walking, and you were there too, sculpting away. And so that was pretty awesome. And it's amazing to see clay being slapped together, and it was just a beautiful thing to see. I'm fascinated with the art of sculpture. And but with that said, it was like you get there and you see that, and seeing your artwork there, and then listening to you speak, your energy was just there's a lot of energy there. I feel like we got a little bit of a kindred spirit going on here, and I liked it. So I said, you know what? Let's get Mardie on the show. So I contacted you, and here you are. So tell us a little bit about yourself, where you're from, a little bit of your journey to becoming the professional artiste that you are.
Well, people always ask, so when did you know you were going to be an artist? Or how did you become an artist? And I have been asked that question over and over. And I can't even really remember when I would say that I started, or because it was always a part of my life. I always sort of considered myself an artist, and it was such a strong thing to be. I mean, I really have I do have other skills, but it was so obvious that this was what I needed to do. But I would say that it was really in in high school that I decided to be really decided to be an artist and really saw it as something that I wanted to pursue way more seriously than just because I thought it was fun. So, um,
Now, did you have
yeah.
somebody like when you were in school, when you were in high school,
Yeah.
was there an art teacher? Did you have
I had
something?
a great art teacher, yes. That's always what everybody talks about is the one person that inspired them. And I would say there were two factors. One is that I grew up, I actually live in my hometown now that I grew
Oh,
up
wow.
in. I live in Gig Harbor, Washington State. I'm not very far from where I actually grew up. I'm within the same property,
Oh,
actually, just
wow.
um, and but I lived my parents decided to do community development in South America, in
Mhm.
Quito, Ecuador, and,
Wow. Now what made him make that
so I was
decision?
about 14 when we left, and
Wow.
that's a real, right after 8th grade, you just start making really good friends and you really starting to become yourself, and that's when we left.
Oh,
So,
man.
um that was and my dad had been there several times, and he was a builder, timber framer, so very much a craftsman
Mhm.
person, and he thought, well, they have this position where you can be a short-term missionary and help churches build churches and help them learn skills and things. Um so we finished building a house and we rented it out, and um went to South America, and all I had was one chest full of some books and some art supplies that I could take with me.
Oh, man.
And when we got there, it was just such a cultural shock, such
Oh,
a
I bet. Yeah. That's a big that
um
yeah.
yeah, I mean, learning the language, like just going from trees and greenery to having a house with only like um an 8 foot by 2 foot lawn, with cement walls around it because we were in a city.
Mm,
Um, just some major changes that happened, and seeing children begging on the street, just like this strong contrast
right.
and then even going up into the communities that my dad worked in. And so as time went on, my mom realized I was really lonely, and had really didn't have a way to a role or anything, hard to
Mhm.
connect. My Spanish was like just at the beginning, and there wasn't a school, an international school there where I could take art classes at. And so I was homeschooled because we couldn't afford this school, but
Mhm.
I could at least take art classes. So I would walk 3 blocks and then take a trolley to the school and take art class for an hour and come home.
Oh, nice.
And my teacher was Mr. Nord. And he was this tall Swede from from Michigan, and he really believed that um that 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 art was like the way that you could express yourself fully, and that the beauty of it, and he he expected things out of me that I didn't think I could do. And even my mom would be like, "Well, what is this project? How are you going to do that?" And I'd be like, "Well, I don't know, but Mr. North thinks I can do it, so I'm going to try."
There you go. It's so beautiful because
Yeah.
I can see you talking about Mr. Nord, and you're lighting up like a Christmas tree. And you're just there's this joy that is bouncing up with you remembering him. And
Yes.
that's the beauty of a good
Oh, it's
mentor, you
yeah, I mean,
know?
he always had those jokes, like, that are kinda like the dad jokes, you
Aha.
know? He always had those, but he wanted I think, he wanted us to learn to he wanted to know if we would keep doing art if we didn't have our arms or legs, and so he had us
Oh.
do a mouth drawing where we had to put a pencil in our mouth, and my jaw hurt so bad, and I did this gorgeous little drawing of 2 chickens in hands,
Oh,
um,
wow.
and just with the pencil in my mouth going, you know, um, drawing this drawing like, I can't remember the name of the artist who became famous because she was handicapped and did all those, mouth drawings, but it made me realize, yeah, I'm serious if I am that passionate to do this that even if I didn't have my arms and legs, yeah, I would be her
Right, right, right. I think
using
you're
my
talking
mouth,
about,
whatever it takes.
yeah, I believe her name was Joni Eareckson Tada.
Yes, yes,
Bingo, there she is. Yeah,
yeah,
she is a woman of God, and just she's a powerful preacher, and she's paraplegic, and
yeah,
she learned to paint with paintbrush in her mouth, and she's
yeah,
really super skilled. It's amazing,
it's
and she just doesn't let
amazing.
nothing stop her. She's an inspiration.
No.
So
Yeah, I read her biography and everything, but it was very that's the type of artist, that's the type of teacher he was, you know?
and I think when you talk about that, like if you didn't have your hands, would you
Yeah,
still do your
that
artwork? And if the
that
answer is
is it.
yeah, if you only have your mouth and you're still gonna do art, that's passion.
Yeah, it really speaks to, like, the heart of art right there. That
Yeah,
it's really the heart and, like, the physical parts of it, those things you just have to overcome over and over, like your hands
right,
hurt or your body hurts or
right,
you get sick a lot, but just realizing that there's that consistency of feeling like this is where I'm meant to be and this is what I'm meant to do, you
right, and
know?
that's a beautiful thing. It reminds me, I've got a video out there, and it's called "The Cost of a Masterpiece," and it basically talks about Michelangelo and all the things that he had to go through, and the stress, and the workload, and the blood, sweat, tears, and everything else in
Yeah.
creating the Sistine Chapel.
Yes.
And I mean, he's my art hero. There's no getting around that. But it's like if you want to make masterpieces, you've got to be willing to go further than everybody else, and then keep going even further than that,
Yeah.
to the point where people think you're crazy. No, it's
Yeah.
passion, it's drive, it's just that need to create. So I think it's beautiful. So it sounds like
Yeah.
Mr. Ford was a great guy that I would absolutely love to meet. um is he still around? Do you
I
have any way to
haven't
contact him?
I haven't talked to him in a long time, but occasionally um his wife will write me. They moved back to the United States a
Hmm.
few years back, but yeah, I was there was so much to adjust to. Like, there was a kidnapping shortly after we were there. They were held ransom.
Oh
We
my.
had a friend who was murdered for his car. Like, so you have like those contrasts of life that um and then you have this extreme beauty of the Andes Mountains and these indigenous people that are just so beautiful um and generous and then you're immersing yourself in this new culture. So the contrasts were really just a lot to process. And
Right.
so every time something would come about, I would just dive into these drawings or these assignments that he gave me,
Mm.
and it would
Sounds like it
really
became a
help me sort
sanctuary.
of survive like all of the emotions that I had about the
Right.
these experiences for a kid that had grown up in a
And you
white
said you
in
said
a
you were
white people town in the Northwest. And though I
mm,
have I'm an adopted sister from Korea, it wasn't like I'd had a lot of cultural experience at
mm,
15. So
right, and
um
that's hard enough. My gosh, you were a 14, 15-year-old girl.
yeah.
That's horrifying enough, you know, because I got a lot of daughters, and let me tell you what, the teenage years are this is Lois, this is Gabby, this is Melissa,
Exactly.
this is Serena, and all this
Yeah.
gray is their little brother Xavier. And so, yeah, throw all that in. So you were going through all that during the most tumultuous time of being a girl, you
Yeah,
know?
during that time where you're like,
Oh,
who am I and who what do I want to be? And
and so
um
Mr. Nord helped you
so
navigate those shores.
yeah, he was just always really cheerful. And then he invited me to be on the design team for this painting group that we he put together. And then later, as I became more of a senior, I was like leading the design painting group,
Oh,
and we
wow.
painted these huge murals on the sides of churches. And just we would project and trace it on the wall at night and
Mhm.
then paint it. And
What a great experience.
so it was. So then I was like, well, of course I'm going to art school.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
So your
that's
parents were
kind of.
supportive of you going to art school?
Yes, they were. I'm very, very lucky. Yeah, I think, my mom saw that I was artistic from the beginning, so
Mhm.
she was always trying to teach me through art. And I
Right.
hated math, and she was like, "Well, too bad. You're gonna have to learn this anyway."
Parents, making
Yeah,
us
and
learn math and stuff.
here I'm, measuring out proportions and mixing silicone. And there's
Yeah,
a
kind of
lot
using
of
that math
science and
stuff, aren't you? A little bit.
technology.
Yeah,
What?
you're using that math stuff a little bit.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I could have avoided that if I went more 2D.
Yeah, exactly. That's why I do 2D. That's right there. Yeah, yeah. Me and math
Yeah,
were, yeah, not fun. Yeah. When I took geometry in high school, I had a 12
got it.
for the whole year, a 12. My
Oh,
math
man.
teacher was like, "How is that even possible?" And I'm like, "Oh."
I love geometry.
Yeah,
I always yeah. It was
yeah.
when I got to that part, I was like, "Yeah, no problem,"
Well,
So
for me, it wasn't that I couldn't have figured it out. I was just too busy playing pranks and being the class clown. I know you're shocked, but I was like, yeah,
That's
I was a little,
perfect.
little
Yeah.
preoccupied, homework, or plan my next prank. It was like,
Yeah.
I'm gonna stay up till 4 in the morning planning the next prank. And that's what
Yeah.
I did. And then report cards came out and it showed. Yeah, that's what
That
happened.
sounds like fun. I wish I was good with pranks.
Oh well, it's all fun and games until and this you kids, you pay attention out there. When I went to apply for college, though, it was like I literally had people go, "Yeah, you won't last a month, kid. Leave, don't even bother, trying to go to college with us because you ain't gonna make it." So I had to
Yeah.
join the military, and I joined the military, and
And
after
learn
all of that,
discipline.
learned discipline and all that, and then went to college, and now
Yeah.
okay, yeah, now I got all the degrees I need, but it's like, and I got the student loans to show for it too.
Oh gosh,
Oh
right?
yeah, no kidding. I could have bought a really nice house. Yeah,
Yes.
but it's like that's the road I had to take. I was too busy goofing off in school. So do your math homework, kids. That's
Yeah.
where you
That's
learn. So, and find yourself a Mr. Nord.
no joke.
I think a Mr.
Yeah.
Nord is important for your life no matter how old you are.
Yeah. I think,
So, were there any other go ahead.
I really believe that if s- if a teacher expects of you more than you can expect out of yourself, then you've found the one, you know? That and I try to do that with my students as well as as my own kids. Is they push back, and you have to have the stamina to keep pushing them
Oh
and
yeah.
not
Oof.
back down, but at the same time, eventually they rise to it, and then they're really proud,
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
have achieved something, because it's important to realize that you can build skills even at the moment you don't have them, you know?
Right. Right. And that, that's a great thing for, no matter what area. I mean, obviously we're artists, so we understand, it's like when you tell somebody, "Oh, you're so talented, you were just born with that." It's like,
Yeah.
to an artist, that's an insult because we work our butts off,
Yeah, I
learning and
it
training.
frustrates me to no end that,
Right.
um, that they see the end product, for example, but, like, they have no idea, like, that you're in up till midnight, and then your mold busts, and the plaster's all over the floor, and you're starting over, or,
Right. Right. Yeah. No,
all
I
all the
understand.
mistakes
They
that
don't see
you're
that. They just see the fancy schmancy at the end,
yeah.
and it's really, frustrating. On my latest exhibit is it's called the Illuminated Messiah, and I painted 66 portraits of Jesus from every book of the Bible, and there are illuminations with text. So I would paint these oil paintings, and then I'm going to put the text on, but I did the text in this thing. It's called Super Sauce, and it's by
Wow.
this company called Das Art, and you slather this like slimy thing onto the artwork, and then you lay the film with the text over it, and then you wait 5 minutes, and then if everything works great, you peel the plastic off and the text stays. Sounds like great.
Scary.
The problem, yes, careful. See, you understand where I'm going here.
Yes,
So,
oh, no.
so you peel the plastic off, and if you peel it off at 4 minutes and 55 seconds, it goes horribly wrong. If you peel it off at 5 and 1 second, it goes horribly wrong. If you got to have it exactly right, and if not, you literally peel the entire painting off the canvas in
Oh,
horrible
dear.
chunks, and you start over from
Oh,
scratch, completely from scratch. And I've
yes.
done that about, I think I painted the Book of Psalms like 8 times
Oh,
because for some reason it just would keep ripping off. So yeah, you're right. When the mold breaks, oh yeah, yeah. But that's the thing, people
Yeah,
see that, but the beautiful thing that you're talking about, even with just like teaching your kids or your art students, or Mr. Nord dealing with you, is that knowing that this is a skill you can develop. Anybody can do
yeah,
this with enough practice, with enough training.
yeah,
Nobody ever says that a concert pianist was just born to be able to play the piano. Like, we
yes,
naturally understand this person is trained for their entire life to be that good.
yes.
But when they look at us artists, they go, "Oh, you were just born with that." It's like,
Yeah,
no.
it's kinda like, I don't know if it's the like, they put the genius, label on you, or I just think a lot of it's about the fact that there's not enough training in education about art. So people have no idea how you got there, or
Right.
the process,
Magic.
and how they're always saying, "I can't draw a stick figure." So
Well, whenever my students tell me that, when we're starting in the beginning, they'll say, "Oh, I can't draw a stick figure." I say, "Well, that's fine. We're going to be painting a ball, a white ball. That's all we're painting. There's no stick figures involved at all." And then they're like, "Oh, okay." And it's like, "Well, okay. Well, as long as we're not doing stick figures, you'll be fine."
Yeah,
Yeah. So
yeah.
it's funny.
Everything starts with a stick figure anyway. That's
That's
what's
right.
funny about it.
Yeah, that is nothing wrong with stick figures. We love our stick
No.
figures. So,
Yeah.
well, let's talk about what attracted you to sculpture, because you were talking with Mr. Nord. You were doing murals, and you were painting, and you're drawing,
Yeah.
putting pencils in your
I
mouth, and so how did you go from that to deciding to go into sculpture?
it's It's interesting because he did have me do some sculpting, um, but I thought I was terrible, and it really wasn't until I got to Laguna College of Art and Design, and we had first they had all these fundamental courses you're supposed to take, and 3D design was one of them, and
Mhm.
I really enjoyed that. And then I thought, well, maybe I'll take a portrait sculpting class. So I took a portrait sculpting class. That was the end. I was immediately hooked.
You were done.
Um,
So your first class
yeah.
was 3D, so digital?
It was three-dimensional design. So we were designing kind of like cubes and just really simple shapes with plaster and foam and
Okay, so you weren't using like a 3D like
no, we weren't
SketchUp
working
or
from the figure or anything. And but our assignment was to create a chess set. And so I of course went for the really extreme, decided to sculpt a king and queen and a horse all at about this big and
oh
sculpey,
gosh.
and made a chessboard that looked like it was from 100 years ago, and just loved it. So I thought, well, maybe I'll sign up for this portrait sculpting class. And um and I had a friend, he really liked sculpture too, and we were both like new in we had started kind of late. I started in January or something. So there was a small group of us going through school at the same time. And he liked sculpture too. So I was like, oh, now I have a buddy, so we started taking all these classes together. Next thing you know, there became like this sculpture group of people that loved sculpture, who were in the sculpture department all the time. But for the most part, besides maybe Angela Cunningham, I was in and Jaya Esser, I was one of the few females that wanted to just be in the sculpture department and take all the classes and that kind of thing. And I would just attribute probably that it was so natural to me to sculpt because I had tiled and I had put in trim. My dad had taught me all of those things: tiling,
Mhm,
trimming, plastering walls, working with plaster like on a trowel
mhm.
and troweling walls. So when I got to sculpting, it was so natural to do, and it was so hard that that's what drew me to it. And
The
so
pain. It was the
in
pain that drew you
some
to it.
weird way, I I went that direction because it was harder than everything else. And I can't
Right.
tell you how many times wonder why I'm so stupid to have gone into sculpture, and the expense of it and the process is so hard. And but I always want to do the harder thing and the next thing
Right.
that nobody's done in sculpture. So I think
Trying to stretch yourself.
that's what drives me. And I
Right.
knew that in the small group of a school that I was of 300, I knew there were only like five serious artists that wanted to sculpt. And still today, from that graduating class, I'm like the only one
That's still
for the most
sculpting.
part that's still
Wow.
sculpting primarily. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. Now that, and let me tell you, now we're gonna have to show off some of your artwork because it shows. It shows that you stuck with it. Your sculptures are just gorgeous. I mean, they really are. And so we're going to show some of these off, and they're just blow my mind. So let's go ahead. And you said that this one, when we were talking earlier, was one of your earliest pieces. This was like your coming out party. This was your, hey, everybody, look at
Yes.
me. So let's show this one. This is Saint Anthony with the Child. And so we're going to show
Yes.
this one off here. Tell us about this sculpture and the story behind it.
Well, this is a life-size sculpture for St. Anthony Hospital in
Mm,
Gig Harbor in my hometown. And I would say it was my first big break. And every artist needs that, a big break. And sometimes it doesn't happen when you want it or early enough, but I am very blessed that I got this opportunity within I would say 4 years after graduating college.
mm,
And it really set my career. on so many levels, and was very challenging, obviously, for so many reasons. But um, yeah, I just love this piece. I had a friend who had a child about this age, and I asked him to model, and I did all the research for Saint Anthony of Padua, and he's supposed to have had an encounter with the Christ child.
Hmm.
And a lot of the sculptures of Saint Anthony shows him with like a miniature adult. So a lot of children weren't necessarily sculpted to their proportions. If you look at ancient, a lot of antique sculptures or ancient sculptures
Hmm.
of Saint Anthony. So I thought, how about I sculpt a toddler and and with the baby chub and that sort of thing. And that's how I ended up that's how I end he so they ended up modeling in my studio for this particular piece. And this piece has been well received and loved, and it sort of it got me my next life size sculpture for Shawnigan Lake School, which included a German Shepherd dog and the headmaster of Shawnigan Lake School. That's still my biggest sculpture to date. So
And how big is
um,
that one?
he's he's about 8 feet tall.
Yeah, that's not. Yeah,
Yeah,
you don't go small.
I like I like big,
Me
and I
too.
like the challenge of
Yes.
doing something that's
Yeah.
hard.
Go big or go home. I'm with you. I'm with you. It's like the it ain't no fun going tiny. I mean, tiny is, and I say that my illuminated Messiah is 66 8 by 10 portraits, but they all connect together like a jigsaw puzzle, make a
Wow,
12-foot cross.
that's
And so I like
incredible.
to go
Yeah.
big, big, make it big,
Yeah, well, I think it's really cool when art can be immersive.
Yeah.
So, it's not possible for everybody to have that kind of space. But the impact in the feeling when you experience it that large is what sculpture is about. It's
Yeah.
three-dimensional, and it has just this incredible quality to it that small just doesn't have.
Right.
So
Sculpture is beautiful, but when it's a big sculpture, you're right, it's powerful. I
it's
think everybody Michelangelo's David, 17
yeah,
feet tall. My gosh, to be standing in front of that, I've never had that privilege yet. And
it's so incredible.
but yeah,
Yes.
I mean, it's like just seeing the reaction of people that have been there, that says everything there is to you can say about it. A grandeur
Yeah.
size is just larger than life, and it impacts people. So that's really cool. Now, how big is this St. Anthony? You said he's life size, so it's about, you
Yeah,
know,
he's about life size. So, um I don't remember the exact dimensions, but
okay, but he's
somewhere
good.
about 6 feet.
Right,
Um,
6 feet. But is it on a
yeah.
platform or is it
He
mounted on the
ended up on a
ground?
pedestal, and I was new, so it was kind of new to me, so I didn't realize that, like, bronze would shrink to some that there would be some shrinkage and stuff. So he did end up on a piece of stone, and he's in the main lobby, but the hospital didn't necessarily design the architecture around the sculpture. So ever since then, I've tried to work with the client to make sure that the environment is going to show the piece off,
Right.
as well as then because they're investing in this expensive
Oh, yeah.
work of art, and it's important that everything around it doesn't make it look like it's in a closet. It has
Right.
to.
You
Um,
want it to you want it to be the
You want
center of the
people to
attraction.
see it. Yeah,
Yeah.
and not miss it for all, a
No
plant
kidding.
or a bench, those aren't important. But
Right.
a sculpture that's representing your hospital is like the icon and the name of it or
Right.
whatever maybe it needs to
Right. So as a
come out.
sculptor, really what I mean, that's the power of being a sculptor. You know, you're creating a piece like this one, and I'm going to put it back on the screen here.
Yeah.
So, you know, the hospital, this, like you said, this is their iconic image. This is almost like their bronze logo. You know, this is their face to the community. You know, they want this to be the first thing that people see. And as
Yeah.
a sculptor, you made that for them
Yes.
and you created that for them. And so that's a really big responsibility in a lot of ways. You know, so
Yeah, it
how does it feel when you have that uh, responsibility and weight pressure, if you will, put on your
oh,
shoulders?
um
You just gasped.
yeah, I've certainly had a few nights of not sleeping, that kind of thing.
Mm,
Um I don't know, I've learned to adjust to, like, the pressures of taking on projects that are, 150,000, 200,000 jobs.
mhm.
Um, but it's it's certainly not always easy, that
Right,
there's
right,
a lot to think about, and, I really depend on, like, the experts and those I work with to know their stuff too, but
right.
also really when I was just starting out, people would look at me and not think that the work in me matched. It's much easier to hire somebody who looks older, maybe is a male, things like that, and go, "Oh, yes, I'll sign a contract and have you do this project." So,
Mhm.
um, but I just always try to continue to promote like my vision, and I think for the work, and to take it to not just be about they say, "Oh, I want this," but also for me to take personal interest in it, to see through what I would like it to be so that I'm passionate about the project and it comes out in the work, and the work has a voice and a spirit to it.
Right, you know,
So
that's the thing, you know, the patron has their vision, the artist has their vision, and, I just finished watching, my favorite one of my favorite movies is, The Agony and the Ecstasy with Charlton Heston playing Michelangelo, and there's that scene where he's just so frustrated because the Pope wants him to just do some simple little thing, 12 apostles on the ceiling, and it drives Michelangelo crazy because there's no vision, there's no inspiration, and he
yeah.
just he's in the bar and he drinks some wine and the wine's sour and the bartender goes, "Hey, if the wine's sour, throw it out." And he like that clicks. He goes home and he rips the Sistine Chapel apart and he climbs up the mountain and he abandons the job and and all this and it's the wine is sour, throw it out. We need that inspiration sometimes so that the patron wants this and sometimes let's be honest, patrons don't have a clue about art. They want something
No.
and they think they know. It's probably worse when they think they know a little bit about art,
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
and they start to interfere. So like there's a famous Jesse James, the custom motorcycle guy, where he'll make you your own custom motorcycle. He has one rule, and it's if the client is involved, the price doubles.
Yeah, it's it's interesting taking on, like, the commission work versus, like, your own ideas
Mhm.
and the gallery type,
Right.
work. Um, which I try to always have a little bit of both going on,
Mhm.
because then the commission work becomes stale, and I need, like, the synergy of it. I need the what I'm working on or ideas that I'm working on in my head. Those pieces will come out in the commission work as well, and
Right. So that
they'll
kind of is how you keep your sanity.
yes, otherwise I feel like I'm working, I'm not an artist, I'm just working for a job, trying to complete a
Right.
job.
Right. So how do
But
you're trying to
yeah,
navigate that to keep it from going stale
yes.
with that, and so you're trying to keep that motivation. So would you say that your gallery work that's coming from straight from your vision and
Yeah.
all of that is that your release art? Is that you're kind of like,
Maybe so. I don't know. I mean, I just, um, the commission work I'm pretty passionate about also,
well, yeah, it pays the
because
bills, don't it?
it pays the bills. Yes. And I've had some just amazing customers some amazing clients that I've worked with. And also, I try to get the client to like my idea.
Yeah, there you go. There you go.
Because my idea is better.
There you
So,
go. It's
yeah,
true. They're hiring you for
to
your
to
art.
to be the artist.
Right. I mean, they
So,
didn't hire this
yeah.
guy or that guy. They hired you. They want Mardie Rees. They don't want John Doe or Jane Doe. And so it's like you got to trust you a little bit. It's like let
Yeah,
the artist go. So that
definitely. So, I've done some things that, they'll tell me not to do it and I'll do it. And then I'll talk them into it.
aha,
Um or I I research the person that they want and find out that there's some things like I know C.W. Lonsdale, there was a lot of drama over me including him with his cigarette holder in the sculpture.
oh
And
really?
and this is an Ivy League school, like that's not
Because smoking
PC.
is bad now. Yeah.
Yes, all the old boys, they remembered him always with the ashtray and the smoking and the dog. And I was like, well, he has to have it because you have to be if you're gonna be the founder of a school in Canada in 1916 in the middle of nowhere on Vancouver Island, you have to be that kind of guy that would
Right.
be smoking a cigarette, be with with the dogs. And I just had to like give something more interesting for me than just a guy standing there in a suit.
Right.
So
Because you want to get the
so
personality of the person.
yes.
That's the
Yeah.
thing. We're figurative artists. We want to make the person, that's probably the greatest challenge of an artist is you want it to look, you don't want it to just look like the person. You want it to be like the person
Yeah.
and
It had
capture who they are.
how they're stoic and spiritless isn't really
It's
what I'm
boring. That's
looking
what it
for.
is. It's boring. No one
Nobody's
wants
gonna
to.
look at it. It's like
Right.
looking at like a brick wall. Oh, the nice decorations. Moving on.
Yeah. Yeah. You want
Yeah.
a sculpture that's going to really grab people. And speaking
Yeah.
of grabbing people, let's show another one. And I'm a veteran, so this one hits me. This one hits me good. So
All
let's talk
right.
about this one here and
Yeah.
talking about how this impacts people. Tell us about this one right here.
This is Soul of the Forward and Faithful. My World War II Marine Raider piece, and the Browning automatic rifleman is in the front. The war dog handler and his German Shepherd is in the middle. And at the very end is the Navajo code talker. And I had to pick an exact date. So, in order to have all the gear accurate,
Mm,
so this is Bougainville, specifically Bougainville Island, because this is World War II U.S. Marine Raiders. So Bougainville in particular was very muddy and boggy. And so I tried to incorporate that in the terrain and of course the palm trees and all of the
mm,
um, vegetation and it also had to reflect that as well. So
right. Now,
I worked from photographs just to figure out like that's his um dog tags are wrapped with left like a slice of a gas mask, Japanese gas mask wrapped around the dog tags so they wouldn't clink because they were very much um
trying to be
about
quiet. Yeah.
quiet and infiltration and
Mm,
trying to get on islands not seen and heard.
mm.
This is the Browning automatic rifleman. And he has more of the gun ho gear. So he has the gun ho knife there in a
Hmm.
field modification attached to his suspenders. And he has the original Raider boots that I sculpted him with. And that's the stiletto knife there, kind of below the Browning automatic rifle. You can see that
Yep, I can see it.
on
Yeah.
his left hip there, as well as like the
And now,
poncho.
where is this displayed?
This is in at the National Museum of the Marine Corps. It
Okay.
was commissioned by the U.S. Marine Raiders Foundation and then donated to the National Museum of the Marine Corps. Most of the work that the Marine Corps owns is created by their own artists. So the Marines and the Army, they have their own field artists that
Mhm.
will create work, and then they'll put them in their museums, and sometimes they'll be in the general's office or um, the general's houses for banquets and things. But they specifically wanted to retain their history, and they came to me, and I love history, and I love getting things accurate, and I felt very connected to this project just in the research that I've done, and
Mhm.
even just some of my own experiences of being in the jungle, um and some of the PTSDs type stuff I've got from living in South America. You
Mm.
know, shows you that danger can be in every corner. you
Right,
know?
right, right. So that was
Yeah.
now that's a bronze.
That's a bronze and it's 4 feet by 3 feet. So I designed it to be monument size. But the funds haven't, there just hasn't ever been the right people coming forward to make that
Okay, so originally you
happen.
wanted it to be really
Yeah,
big.
I
And
designed it to be massive, but it's a third, that's at a third scale. So you can see like the war dog handler
mhm.
behind me kind of gives you an idea.
Oh, okay, yeah, I can see behind you. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so I have copyrights to the piece. So I thought that would be nice to create an edition of each of the guys individually because they really are beautiful to look at all the way in the round. Just there was a tremendous amount of work and thought put into the gear and every detail that it's kind of would be nice for more people to be able to enjoy each of them on
Right.
their own, you know.
Yeah, and that way they can see them and really all the way around. And
Yeah.
it's almost like, I mean,
Yeah.
it's like it's almost a relief sculpture in some ways.
Yeah. I sculpted them all separate and then I set them into the background, and then the background actually has um three or four additional raiders in um in the palm trees in the background so that I
Oh,
could
wow.
incorporate, so I could include like the Thompson machine gun and like some of the other very World War II gear, you know, the like gear that wasn't being represented.
Right.
Um,
So
so
did they give you anything to help you get everything accurate, or is it just all from
oh
photos?
yeah, I had a lot of stuff shipped to my studio. Some stuff I couldn't get, like the Browning automatic rifleman or rifle, or I did get the M1 carbine. I think I did have in my studio. But the Raider boots, I had almost all of it. Some of it I had to make based on measurements or go look at a museum and photograph it and then come home and make it. So
Right,
I
'cause it was things
measured
like that. Yeah,
everything
I
and
bet.
then basically made small models. I mean, I went just I mean, I measured the leash and then of the dog leash, and then made the leash exactly the same size. So, I mean, some of it I maybe went so overboard with like
The
like
accuracy.
the accuracy that like now looking back, having it's been maybe 8 years, 7 or 8 years now since I've made that. Now I'm really diving more into bel my imagination, but also, like, accepting my understanding and realizing that it's also art, so,
Right. Right, but in a
allowing
piece
myself
like that,
to.
I can see the need for accuracy because it's a historical piece,
Yes.
and a soldier looking at that is gonna notice certain things. I mean, I was an Air Force guy
Yeah.
in the '90s, so, obviously I wouldn't, but there are still guys around that could look at
Yeah,
that
I
and
had
they would go, "That's not right, and that's not right, and that's not
oh,
right."
I
So
had, like, several curators, and none of them would ever tell me, "Yes, that's the right decision." And I finally got to the point where I was like, "I'm the artist, and I'm deciding."
there you
So
go.
I had to really go, "Okay, nobody's gonna approve my decision. I have to just, know that these are the gear that's for each guy." And I had like a list of all the gear that was gonna be on each guy. And it had to be, of course, it was based on a certain date. So one particular item couldn't go on that guy unless it it met the requirement for the date.
Mm,
Um, it was a tremendous uh, a a tremendous amount of email and expert advice, but in the end,
right.
I would look up a photograph
You
and
had to make the call, yeah, 'cause
yeah.
I can already tell it's like I know enough, having been in the bureaucracy involved, and no one wanted to be the person to tell you a definitive answer because then it would be on them if it was wrong. And
Yes,
so that's like, I'm not touching that one, it's like one of those kind of
yeah,
things. So
definitely.
well, that's it. That's really interesting. Talk about dealing with different clientele. The hospital was probably a lot different dealing with their people than it was dealing with the military. And a
Oh,
bunch of
yeah.
old Marines
Yeah.
and a group of a branch of the military. And then, of course, with the statute for the hospital, you're also dealing with the Roman Catholic Church, probably making
Yeah,
sure you
just
got
the
you got Saint Anthony right because they kind of take
uh
that serious. They're pretty particular about how their saints are
Yes.
approved. Um, well, let's go ahead and show. I'm going to show two more sculptures,
Okay.
and these are ones that you did during the pandemic.
Yeah.
And so let's talk about these ones real quick because and then I want to talk about some all kinds of other stuff because I'm just having a ball here. But let's look
Great.
at this one right here. This one was my favorite of all the ones you sent me because my kids are at that age now where I'm like, when's the grandbaby showing up? I want grandbabies. And they're like, no. And I'm like, yes. And we're having that argument, but that's all right. Eventually, I think I'll win because, the married children will eventually have babies.
Yeah, yeah,
So
it's gotta happen.
I just got to bide my time. That's what I got to
Yep.
do. So let's take a look at this one. Tell us about this one right here that just melts my heart. Look at that. Look at that.
That that is Up We Go. And I had a bunch of names ideas for the name, but I couldn't. It was Christopher Robin or
Mhm.
Pooh. Um, there's always working titles. Um, but I just thought, it would be so fun to do something that sort of defies gravity. And there's that John Mayer song where he says, "Gravity is working against me."
Mm.
And I was just so sick of all the bad news and uh, things that were going on, and I'm not particularly a fan of rules. So,
An artist that wants rules. No, I never heard of that. No.
so I really wanted to do, and I was had completed the bell cricket with the cast glass lanterns, and I thought, what would it be like if I blue had blue glass and put him like up in the air and that kind of thing.
It's amazing. So
And
that's blown glass
um,
that you did yourself, and then
I
you've got
had that done by a flame worker friend
okay,
because there's just only so many skills I can
you
have.
can learn, yeah. There you go.
And even he tested out like tons of different steel strings to find the right gauge wire to hold those
Oh, yeah, because 'cause they're not I
those
mean,
balloons at.
are the balloons attached to each other, or are they free from each other?
They're free, and um it's pretty challenging because of like I did patina the strings and then put the balloons back on. And they're pretty strong, but they clink a little bit if you move the sculpture around. And then
Oh,
of course
man.
getting the strings to go through his hand. So, I had to make sure his hand was large enough, but then I actually probably re-sculpted his hand quite a bit in wax and ground it out to really get those strings to
So
come
the strings and the
through.
balloons are almost like a separate sculpture that slides into his hand?
Yes.
Oh, wow, that's cool. That and it's just such a
Yeah.
great what a great concept. It's just fun, it's free, it's telling a story, it's
Yeah.
beautiful. I absolutely love the combination of the glass with the bronze. And so let's look at this next one because
Thank
this is
you.
now is this one also glass and bronze? This one right here.
This one is also glass and bronze. Yeah. I have done all glass pieces, but since I'm primarily a sculptor, I love the strength of bronze but the glass has this illuminescence,
Right.
it looks so different throughout the day. There's just so much beauty, and I can take something that I've sculpted and cast it in glass. So it's also sculpted just like the rest of it. It just is a little bit harder to see depending on how the light is shining through it. So here she's holding a conch shell, and then the younger sister is holding a oyster shell in her
Oh, okay. Now I
hand
see
down
their
low.
hand, right? Yeah.
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 So they're kind of competing to hear the sound
Nothing like
of
a
the
seashell
sea.
to your ear. There's nothing in the
Yeah,
world. Yeah. So,
exactly.
yeah, that's and conch shells are fun. My wife and I went snorkeling a couple years ago and she caught a conch shell bigger than that. And she
Wow.
was like, "Ooh," and of course I wanted to take it home so we could eat it, but she was like, "No, we have to let it go." And I was like, "I want to eat the conch shell." And she said,
That's
"No." I was a little upset, but she won. So
yeah.
yeah,
I've
yeah.
never
You
I
never had it.
found them on the beach, but never found one snorkeling. That sounds really cool.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we love to snorkel here on the beach. It's a rough
Oh,
life.
yes.
Somebody has to live it, right? So,
Yeah.
well, let's talk about this last one that you sent me. Um, this one here. Tell us about this. There we go. Tell us about this one.
Yeah,
Ooh, look at that one.
that's my core or my heart.
Mhm.
And this piece is really what took me seriously into figuring out how to cast into glass because I saw a piece at the Seattle Arts Fair that was a figure all in glass, and it was sculpted and cast, and I thought, I'm gonna do one. I'm gonna do that.
Mm,
There's something so incredible about the figure in glass, and I thought, but what if it's in the air and it's being held by bronze? So it's illuminated in from these different angles. And
right.
I had I became close with a friend who lost a child to cancer,
Mm,
and I thought for some reason I just had this vision of like the child being held by the mother, and almost like she almost like she's has no gravity. There's sort of this sort of fierceness to her, that primal love. And through through my friend and just through my experience in death, that just because somebody is gone does not mean that you don't love them and miss them every day.
right.
They're still in your heart and mind, and you want them to be talked about. And so I felt like even though time moves forward, we still are holding on to that person or that child, in our minds and hearts. And it's just this innate, like a child is really much like an innate, deep, primal love that is unexplainable.
Mm,
It's kind of bottomless. And so I wanted to explore that in sculpture and figure out how to get these two pieces to fit together. So she and I wanted to sort of put the child sort of in a fetal position, like a child would be in the womb a little
right.
bit. Of course,
Hmm.
I'm pulling her foot out just a little bit, playing, pulling the mom's hair out, so it feels kind of like she's like running through space and time, but she's sort of shielding the child with her arm.
Right.
All of those, and I wanted her to be really powerful. So I spent this piece took me a long time because I really wanted to get my anatomy at a completely new level.
Hmm.
And my model was a biker, so she had these huge legs, and she would bike all over town, and so she'd come in and model for me, and I'm like, I have to get her legs just, you know, um, just kind of that masterful level of a hero,
Mm, right. That mama bear protecting the cub
yeah,
kind of a
huh.
thing.
And showing women as like a mother, yeah, as powerful. And
Yeah, it absolutely is. I mean, it's an incredible image. It shows protection, and she's running, and I mean, just there's so much power in this pose, and how her arm is shielding the baby, and then she's got him in his arms. Um, and the baby just in that fetal position. It's like it's not worried about nothing because mama's got it.
yeah,
Mama's got the baby. The baby ain't scared, you know?
yeah,
And it's powerful. And I love the glass with the bronze, the strong metal and the
yeah,
fragile glass. It's perfect. And the translucency to the glass. You can see mom's arms coming through and the light bouncing around. Tell it. I've always
yeah,
I wanted to know this. Like I get how bronze is cast.
yeah.
How the heck do you cast glass?
It's it's really hard.
Can you explain
And
this a little bit
you
for
know
us
it
who don't know?
it it is like a very ancient material as well, you
Mhm,
know. Um and Karen Lamont kind of pioneered that, I think, in just bringing like a representational idea or viewing of uh, cast glass and what it can be, because she was mold making these, taking a model and casting molds directly off of Greek, almost Greek inspired dresses,
mhm.
and then casting these huge sculptures, life size and glass, and they're just gorgeous. And I thought, how can me as a figurative portrait sculptor take some of that and bring it into um, bring that into my work. And so I started exploring how to do it. And I had a piece cast by somebody, and he said, all you need is a kiln off Craigslist, and you can do it. So I found a large kiln for $300 on Craigslist and brought it home, and it did feel like that kiln had was cursed because it was always breaking, and it
Oh, I
was
know.
always had some issue, and it was almost like it didn't want to work and it didn't want to behave for me, but somehow I kept figuring it out or getting somebody over to fix it, and somehow I managed to cast two pretty large glass sculptures about 18 inches or so, fully glass, out of that, just following these directions and talking to different artists about how to do it. So,
Right. Now,
yeah.
is it solid glass or is it like an
Mhm.
outline shell? So you just pour the molten glass into a
Yeah, the
form,
glass,
just like you do bronze.
you you make a mold similar to a mold you would make for um like a bronze sculpture, around a wax. So you have the wax, and then you make a special mold that goes around the wax. And then you melt the wax out in a drum with steam, and then you take that mold and put it in your kiln, and you have to measure out the amount of volume that there is in there so that you have the exact amount of
Wow.
glass ready to pour into it.
Right. Because you got one
Because,
shot at this.
yeah, and so you have to measure the water and then calculate the water to glass measurement in order to have the right amount of glass. So you'll pour in the water into the mold, then measure it, then decide how much glass you that you need, and then the glass goes in a clay flower pot, kind of, or sometimes you can hand make a pot to go in, and then once it reached the right temperature, it will pour into there like honey. So it doesn't, bronze pours like water, like, and it can go everywhere, and you wear a fire suit and everything for that. But for casting in glass, you have to have it all ready to go, and then you close the kiln and you just pray, that everything is gonna
There's a lot
go
of
well.
praying in making art. Anybody that tells you
There's lots of
otherwise is
praying, yeah,
lying. Yeah, there's a lot of
and
praying in art.
mhm,
That is true. So, well, this has been just fascinating. So, I mean, your art journey has gone from up in Washington down to the jungle
yeah.
where you got inspired and you met your first big art mentor that inspired you. We need to make sure that Mr. Nord gets a copy of this video.
Yes,
So we need to make sure
definitely.
he gets to see it. If that's on YouTube, we need to make sure he gets to see it.
Yeah,
And then then you go to art school, and then you get a big break very quickly, and then your career just kind of skyrocketed.
yeah,
And and you do commissioned work where you're working with clients. Ooh. And then you get your personal stuff that you work at that you sell in galleries and on your website and things like that. I
yeah,
need to put your website on here so you guys can check her out. You need to go on her website and look at her artwork. They can also find you on Instagram and I'm sure Facebook. Is that
yes,
correct?
huh,
Awesome.
and
So
I have kind of an unusual spelling name, so you can just find me just with my name like
that's
that.
sweet. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. It's like, and it's tough when you got like you need a weird name in art just so people can find you easy. You know,
Yeah.
um, it makes it tough. It makes it tough. My problem is there's another Tim Gagnon artist out there.
Oh, no.
Yeah, he's got the exact name as me. He's from Maine. He's an awesome artist,
Oh,
which
dear.
which I
Yeah,
both love and makes me mad that he's so good.
yeah.
And my plan is though is we're going to have him on the show. I really want to get him on the show. Be neat to have Tim Gagnon interviewing Tim Gagnon. I think that'd be kind of
Yeah,
funny.
that would be
That would
really
be
fun.
that
You
would be
just look
hilarious.
in the mirror
Yeah, yeah. Well, I like to say that I'm the more handsome version, but he's like a lot younger than me, so he's probably the more handsome Tim Gagnon out
Oh,
there as
age
well.
doesn't
So
mean a thing.
that's true. Good answer. Good answer. Good. That's a good answer. So, so you've gone all this journey, and now I mean, now you're like one of the big speakers at conferences, and you're doing all this. So your career has really flourished. What would you say would be like the main thing for people that are just starting out? Maybe they're in college and they're going through sculpture and they're going on this journey, and maybe
Yeah,
people are telling them they're crazy to go into sculpture because it's such a hard
yeah.
art field. Art period is tough, but sculpture,
Art is hard. Yeah,
yes, art is hard, and sculpture seems like it would be even harder compared to other genres of art, that might be a
yeah.
little quicker and easier. Um, so, what would you attribute to your success in this field?
Oh,
It's a deep question. I know. I
yeah.
Mon Dieu, made
Um,
myself talk French.
it's it's really, I mean, there are two sides to it. There's the business side, and then
Right?
there's the artist side, right? So, as an artist, you you need to believe in yourself enough and have the people around you as well, have a support team to build you up when you can't build yourself up. So, I would say that's a really important, like, would be like a really important thing to have, is so that when so you can stay really determined in your field, because you're going to hit some really rough spots, and you need to have the passion and the determination, but you also need you family and friends. If your family's not going to do it, you need friends that are going to come and give you a pat on the back and a pep talk, and um, help you out when
Right.
you're not, when you're down, right?
Hmm.
Because there's always, artists are very passionate people, and we're also very emotional. So we need uh, support, just like that first teacher who believes in you. So from an artist standpoint, you need that, like a support team, and you need grit and all those things to keep going. And then on the business side, I really feel like it's important to get to know people in your community, and to not be a hermit and expect for people to understand you or know what you do, but to get involved in business clubs, Rotary, volunteer, be seen, because you might be the only artist, a real artist that anybody knows in your community or in your and sometimes when people get to know me, I don't go around and promote myself, but occasionally somebody they'll get to know me, and then they'll realize I'm a real artist. Um,
Right.
but really, they're seeing they're seeing my process and my work, and that's will get you the jobs and the opportunities. Is You have to be seen to get the opportunities, so you need to be confident, try to be confident enough to get out there and be involved where people are, where business is happening, you know so
That's a really, really great point. I've got a friend named Matt Tommy, and he's an art mentor, and he has a big mentoring program for artists on the business side of it.
yeah.
And one of his big statements is that relationships are the currency of the kingdom.
Yes.
That's really how a career is built. It's not money, it's not this, it's not that, it's relationships.
Yes.
And you've got to put yourself out there. You're absolutely right. And it's interesting that you said you got to join your local Rotary Club or the Chamber of Commerce, and you got to go to those kind of events. You got to
Yeah.
put yourself out there in your community. Otherwise, the community doesn't know who you are.
Yes.
And how are they going to know who you are? A lot of artists, we kind of
Yeah.
Artists can tend to be introverts, but you got to be a little bit of an
Yeah.
extrovert if you want to be successful as an artist. And part of business acumen is being able to get out there and promote yourself in a way that's not pushy but is engaging.
Yeah.
And so I think that's some great advice that you just gave. That's some internet gold right there. So make
Yeah,
sure that you
you have
guys
to
write that down.
be genuine, you know? They don't know an artist. You're the one, right? You're
Bingo.
representing artists out there, you know? So, um
So
and
when they need one, you're the person they're going to go to.
yes,
And
and it
that's
might be the dumbest thing in the world, and you're like, "Oh, no," you know? You might get, but sometimes they're like, "I don't know what sort of art supplies to buy," and they call you, you know?
that's
But
simple.
as
Yep.
time goes on, something will come up
Mhm.
and that will be
And
you.
you're the
They'll
one
call
they
you.
call. That's right,
Yeah.
and so you just gotta be ready, but how you be ready is you put yourself out there,
Yeah.
and
You
that's a
need
big
to
one.
Yeah, because it's not all about being good or that skilled, really.
You're absolutely
I
right.
want to be the best sculptor and this and that. But sometimes it's the artists over there who may not be as good, have no training, and they're getting all the jobs because they're going to all the auctions and the parties and the business groups and
They're putting
they're
their name out
involved.
there.
Yes.
Exactly. That's exactly it. That's exactly it, and that goes into the whole relationship thing, you know?
Yeah.
The most successful financially successful artists are usually ones that have the best contacts and they have the
Yes.
best business acumen. They're
Yeah.
not always the most skilled,
No, they're not. And
and a
it's
lot of
sometimes
times the
that's
most skilled are the
very
starving artists.
frustrating. Yeah.
Yeah, and it can be frustrating, but it boils
Uh-huh.
down to get out there, get yourself out there. Don't you know, it's it can be intimidating, but if you want to have any success as an artist, if you
Yeah.
want to make your living as an artist, you've
Yes.
got to put yourself out there. You got to do the
Yeah.
scary stuff.
Uh-huh.
So,
Yeah,
well,
it's not too far off from like moving to a new community and wanting to have friends,
mhm.
right?
Yeah,
Like I love having friends, but if I want to have a friend or if I meet somebody and I want them to be my friend, I have to kind of be invite them to coffee and like show them
right,
that I like them and you
right.
know do all of those things. It's sort of like a courtship thing.
Yep,
And but also like the genuineness of loving on the people around you. And then as you do
absolutely.
that, you start to build relationships
Yep.
um and it's definitely just a more um well-rounded like loving life to have
That's
if
right.
you're
It's
doing that.
like a couple of
No.
years ago. Let's see, I can't find it here, but I wrote a children's book. We did a children's book. I did the art, and a woman came to me and she was like, I had this idea for a children's book. And I ended up writing and illustrating the book for her from her character. And, but the character's name was Blob Farley. It was a blobfish, right? It was a story of this little blobfish that swims up. Let me see if I got it around here somewhere. And of course, I won't be able to find it while we're looking on the air
Yeah.
here. But the Blob Farley story, oh, here it is right here. I found it. I got
No
all my
way.
books. Yeah. So here it is. Blob Farley. Okay.
Oh my
Yeah,
gosh.
yeah, yeah, yeah. And it's this little blobfish that runs around. He swims around. See, there he is meeting a shark, and he's all
Yeah.
scared. And see, there's the shark. Oh no, it's a
Oh,
shark, right? And so, but Blob Farley, every time he meets one of these characters, it's scarier, it's intimidating. He sits there and he says, I'm going to read right out of the book. And it says, but then Blob Farley remembered what his dear mother used to say: to have a friend, you need to be a friend.
it's
And
yes.
so, swallowing his fear, Blob Farley introduced himself. See that? Blob Farley
Yeah.
will preach. But for an artist, you got to get your name out there. You got to make friends. You got to
Yeah.
do those things. People buy art from people that they're attracted to. They don't
Yeah.
buy the art because they can afford it a lot of times. They don't buy the art because they need it. Nobody needs a piece of art. They
Yeah.
buy it because there's something about you that they've got to have a piece of your art. They don't want a Tim Gagnon painting. They want a Mardie Rees sculpture, and they got to
Yeah.
have that. And that connection that they make with you is what really gets them excited about that commission that they do, and that's a
Yes.
powerful thing. But you got to get your name out there. So
Yeah.
you artists out there that are watching this, don't be shy. Get
Yeah.
out there and take that. I mean, you gave great advice, Marty. I mean, it really is.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
that is some great gold advice on how do you make it as an artist. And you've clearly done that and it's working. So awesome
Yeah.
sauce for that, right?
Yeah.
All right.
Believing that good things can happen to you, you know? Yeah.
Positive
And
attitude. There you go. Well, I just
yeah.
want to say thank you for coming on the show. This has been
Yeah.
absolutely fabulous. It's been great getting to know you. And when this airs, people are just going to go crazy for it. I just know it. So, and I know that my viewers are going to just be like sharing on the interwebs with it. So, but
That's awesome. Thank you.
yes, well,
Thank you
thank
for
you again for
having
coming
me.
on the show. I'm gonna say goodbye to the audience. I'm gonna come back and chat with you a little bit, say our final
Okay,
goodbyes.
sounds good.
But again, thank you for coming on. This was fabulous.
Thank you, Tim.
All righty. Well, folks, I told you it was going to be good. I told you it was going to be good. That last bit about getting out there and getting your name out there, that is so important. Cannot stress that enough. That was the best advice that you could ever have on how to make it as an artist. Get yourself out there. It is not, you got to have the studio time, you got to have the art stuff, but you got to get out there so people can see you. If they can't see you, they don't know you. If they don't know you, they're not going to buy nothing from you. You know what I'm saying? So fantastic advice. And wasn't her artwork just amazing? It was so stunning. I especially like the glass with the bronze. Oh, it was good stuff. It was good stuff. So if you get a chance, don't be shy. Check out her website, mardierees.com. You can also find her on Instagram and Facebook, all the social media platforms. If you go to her website, she has links to all that. She's also got some great videos showing like her different pieces and talking about them and that. So check out her website. You guys won't miss that. Again, if you want to learn more about the Gagnon Atelier and everything that we are doing, you can go to our website, gagnonatelier.com. And that is a super fun website for you to check out. And again, as always, guys, please like and share this broadcast. We appreciate it very much. Every time you share it, every time you send it out, that's another person that we can reach with the message of the Gagnon Atelier, sharing our art, sharing our faith, sharing our stories, just sharing the power of art with the world. And so that's a beautiful thing. So please do us that favor. Like, share, subscribe, do all that stuff. Cannot thank you enough for doing that. And as always, guys, please remember, God loves you, and so does your old pal Tim. We'll talk to you next time.